Before Mass Effect became Mass Effect, it was known as Codename SFX. So here is a deep dive into the origins of SFX and how it evolved into Mass Effect. By the time SFX even came to be, BioWare had already launched several titles, starting with Shattered Steel back in 1996. And after the success of Knights of the Old Republic and Baldur's Gate, BioWare wanted to focus on a game where they could craft their own world. In September of 2003, Casey Hudson, who started as a technical artist at BioWare, sat down with Ray Muzica and Greg Zeshuk for lunch and pitched his science fiction game that he called SFX. His one-page pitch outlines a vague yet large and ambitious project that was out of the ordinary for BioWare. Up until now, their most successful games were under other IPs, but with SFX they would get to imagine and create their own world. The game's vision was a large-scale RPG with online capabilities and a procedurally generated galaxy exploration system. Another main feature was that SFX would focus on an online trading system that would build a dynamic in-game economy specifically made for Xbox Live. Some aspects of this were eventually canned, but at the heart of this pitch, it really is still the iconic BioWare formula: a strong, powerful, character-driven story, a small party of adventurers, and world exploration. There wasn't a lot that Hudson had figured out about the game or its plot, but he did want SFX to be a trilogy, which BioWare had not done before. Muzica and Zeshuk shockingly but enthusiastically agreed and made Hudson the project director, and so the team got to work. The first year of development was spent working on the universe without a finalized idea to work around. In the beginning, there were a lot of unanswered questions, but the team eventually settled on a sci-fi game that took place in the near future in a universe that had faster-than-light travel due to the discovery of ancient alien technology. The hero would be modeled after a Jack Bauer or James Bond character who acted with impunity in outer space, doing whatever was necessary to maintain intergalactic peace. And here's a picture of the first character prototype. A few months after Hudson had pitched SFX in September of 2003, they had made an outline of their game's world. On January 8, 2004, the master-slave concept came to life. The story was that humanity was now amongst powerful alien species competing for control of the galaxy. And with humanity being able to use the ancient alien technology, the human race was becoming a dominant force in the galaxy. More story details revolved around travel through the use of jump stations/hypergates, which were left behind by this alien creator race. Upon discovering and activating a gate located on Mars, humanity opened up the system to an entire galactic community. The galactic community consisted of numerous powerful alien empires struggling against each other to expand their influence. They would have a galactic council on Star City, which was the major political and economic hub of the galaxy. These other races would see humanity being able to use the ancient alien technology as a threat and also a political resource. The major twist of the story would be that humans were actually engineered as the slave class of the creator race a millennia ago. This creator race was known as the Nazari. The main character would be an important tool to the other aliens and to Earth. The human main character would have been able to explore the creator artifacts, which provided answers to the relationship between the creators and their creation, the humans. The main character would have been able to explore established worlds and alien empires, while also exploring uncharted worlds by establishing new jump stations and expanding the galaxy. The main character would also work for some kind of military/civilian agency that is trying to establish humanity in the greater galactic community. Star City was a central nexus for explorers, and an embassy would be established so the human main character had easier access to the other alien races. This would have taken place in the near future with familiar technology, but technology that had been enhanced by the alien technology found on Earth. And because of this technology, the main character would be using a faster-than-light drive and jump gates for longer distances. The gates would be for opening up the galaxy and allowing for exploration, with each cluster intended to have an overarching theme, storyline, and purpose. Aliens would be common, and there would be many species to interact with after leaving Earth. Obviously, a lot of this carried over into the final product. Star City would become the Citadel, the jump gates would become the mass relays, the extinct creator race, aka the Nazari, would become the Protheans, and the military agency would become the Alliance. A lot of this carried over and is the foundation for eventually becoming Mass Effect. One major thing that didn't carry over is that humans did not end up as slaves to this master creator race that would have created humanity a millennia ago. Making humanity be so closely related to our real-life history was definitely for the best, and finding out we were created as slaves would be kind of weird. But essentially the story was evolving at this point, especially around the main character. The Jack Bauer/James Bond character would become Captain Anderson, and then finally Commander Shepard. And yes, Captain Anderson was actually the original main character of Mass Effect, until he got an overhaul on his name, face, and armor. But originally Captain Anderson would face off against a villain with a mosquito's stinger coming out of the back of his head, Saren. Saren would lead a warmongering race of small, bat-like creatures called the Batarians, who were hell-bent on stealing the alien technology. And this was supposed to be the main conflict of the game, but since the story was supposed to span an entire trilogy, the team knew that they needed more. Looking for inspiration, the team found its core theme in the weirdest of places. A KTR voice robot that was an experiment by Japanese researcher Hideyuki Sawada. Sawada's experiment involved a robot with silicone lips and artificial vocal cords, and he wanted to see if the robot could recreate the sounds of a human. I'll play the clip, and I'm sorry for what you're about to hear. It's horrible. I'm sorry, but I did warn you. Anyways, Preston Watamaniuk, who is still at BioWare today, found a recording of this KTR robot and started playing it at team meetings. It caused the team to ask a lot of questions about technological advancements, and specifically about what the future looked like surrounding technology being indistinguishable from humans. This gross silicone mouth eventually gave the team the idea for the organic versus synthetic life debate that is so prominent through the Mass Effect series. With this new organic versus synthetic theme they wanted to focus on, they took the idea of the master slaves and changed it so these master slaves were now machines that had risen to power long ago. They stayed lurking in deep space and then decided to return and harvest sentient life as fodder for a machine army, aka the Reapers. They also got rid of the Bat Army in favor of a robot army, named the Geth. Originally, the Geth were imagined to have been organic beings with synthetic fluid running through their veins, similar to Bishop from Aliens. Eventually that idea was scrapped and they evolved to the robotic Geth we know now. So now that the game had progressed story-wise and concept-wise, a year and a half of development had already passed and the game was still being called SFX. So it needed a name. The team debated names such as Space Age, Element Zero, Threshold, the Epsilon Effect, Element, Element Zero, Unearthed, BioWar, Nebula, Guardians of the Citadel, the Oculin, the Optagon, Star Citadel, and the Citadel. Eventually they settled on Mass Effect, which is named after the mass relay time travel devices and the concept of one individual being able to change the course of history. In the summer of 2005, Hudson realized that they needed to flesh out the plot more, focus the gameplay, and redesign the main character, who is now known as Commander Shepard. No one was happy with his design. His white and red armor made him look like a medic, not the Jack Bauer they intended him to be. Hudson knew something needed to change. And at this time, the team was under pressure because Microsoft was planning to announce the game at a press event in October of 2005 that year. The trailer was a little vague and mostly features text, but here is the 2005 reveal trailer featuring Medic Shepard. We can see the familiar Geth, the Volus, Thresher Maw, and Varen, so it's clear the world was definitely somewhat fleshed out. After this trailer was revealed, Hudson and the team got to making several changes, and a year later, in 2006, BioWare released a beta gameplay trailer. By the time of this trailer, Commander Shepard's name and face had been changed. You can also see that quite a bit still changed by the time of the game's release a year later in 2007. The combat and companion HUD, the codex entries, and the galaxy map looked like they were all overhauled. When this 2006 beta trailer was released, aspects of the game, including the story, were not fully fleshed out, and Hudson needed inspiration to finalize the story. So, and this is a weird one, Hudson went to a local supermarket and bought some slabs of meat. He turned this meat into inspiring photographs by combining the meat with circuit boards, ribs, and screws in his basement. The next day, Hudson brought these photos back to the team. These pictures inspired the dreamlike sequence Commander Shepard sees after being exposed to the alien beacon on Eden Prime. During this time, Hudson and the team were able to focus on refining the plot, and eventually they decided on Commander Shepard crossing paths with Saren, a Turian alien who double-crossed the Alliance. Saren would work on building his own army of machines led by sentient AI robots named the Geth that had revolted against their creators, the nomadic Quarians. Later in the game, players would realize that Saren had been brainwashed by the Reapers to do their bidding. This would be the first ominous sign of the Reapers' return. In early phases, the Geth were not scary enough. One Geth in particular was helping a wounded friend who had been shot on the battlefield, which isn't very intimidating. Eventually, the team decided on the Geth impaling dead humans on 20-foot-high mechanic spikes that pumped the cadavers full of cybernetics and turned them into mindless killing husks. And this worked because that is definitely scary. It was during this time of development that they also started cutting content. The entire Xbox Live trading system was scrapped, and Mac Walter's idea surrounding Cerberus would not make it into the game either. This plot included a shadowy organization which conducted human experiments on a planet named Misery. Another plotline that was cut was a story about a mission on Caliston, a volcanic mining planet. Some of these story elements were used later in the Therum missions, and the planet itself was named Caliston in the beta, but then later changed to Therum. And most of these assets intended for the Caliston planet were repurposed for the Bringing Down the Sky DLC. Originally, instead of searching for Liara in the opening missions, Shepard was supposed to rescue a colony of miners on Caliston. And as a lot of people already know, saving both Ashley and Caden was also a possibility before being cut. Another thing was cut was that Turians were originally supposed to have clicking noises when they talked, but obviously this was also later cut. Some additional cut content was a combat feature where you could play as your companions, similar to how Dragon Age handles combat, but this was cut when the final game was released. Ashley's original voice actress was also recasted because the team felt like they couldn't fall in love with her current voice actress, which you can actually hear in the initial trailer.
I don't understand. Why hide this? What's the terrible secret?
According to a developer who worked on Mass Effect, the dev team had also originally planned for a new Game Plus ending. In this ending, during the first mission on Eden Prime, Sovereign would blow up and essentially end the game if you shot him in the right place. I couldn't find the original Twitch clip for this source, so I'm not entirely sure on the details, but this would have been funny if true. And according to some cut audio files, there was also seemingly the possibility of meeting the Lacenthi, which are a type of Solarian that live fairly different lives culturally and also live longer lives than Solarians. They are also stronger than your average Solarian as well. There were a decent amount of side missions and planets to explore that were cut, but cutting this content meant that the team could focus more on the game and the vision, and by the summer of 2007, the game was starting to come together. By September 25th of 2007, the team realized that they were close to finalizing the game, and on November 20th, Mass Effect was released. With BioWare and the fanbase looking to the future of Mass Effect with the next game on the horizon, I wanted to take a look at how Mass Effect came to be, especially with the multiple SFX references BioWare has been giving us. You can see SFX both on the ship from 2021's N7 Day and on this building from 2022's N7 Day concept art. These are both from pieces of concept art, and things will change during production, I'm sure, but it is exciting to see the implication of returning to Mass Effect's roots. So if you're wondering why I call the next game Mass Effect 5, it is because SFX was Mass Effect's original codename, and with this concept art saying SFX 5, it's pretty clear the BioWare team is calling it Mass Effect 5 for now. Mass Effect Andromeda was Mass Effect 4 until it eventually got its name, which is what I'm assuming will happen for the next game as well. So what do you think about all this? What core concepts of Mass Effect would you like to see explored or brought back to the next game? And what do you think about all of this old SFX content? And what do you think about Commander Shepard, aka Captain Anderson's old faces? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.